Annihilationism, also known as conditional immortality, is the doctrine that the final fate of the unrepentant wicked is complete destruction or cessation of existence rather than eternal conscious torment. According to this view, human beings do not possess inherent immortality. Immortality is a gift bestowed only on the redeemed through Christ. The unsaved, after facing judgment and a limited period of punishment proportionate to their deeds, are ultimately annihilated. Body and soul cease to exist. This theory is most prominently discussed within Christianity, where it is held by groups such as Seventh-day Adventists, some Anglicans, and Jehovah's Witnesses, as well as individual theologians like John Stott and Edward Fudge. It stands in contrast to the traditional doctrine of hell as a place of unending conscious suffering. The majority view across the Abrahamic faiths emphasizes eternal conscious punishment for the wicked. In mainstream Christianity, particularly in Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and most Protestant traditions, hell is understood as a state or place of eternal torment. Key biblical texts such as Matthew 25:46, eternal punishment, Mark 9:48, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched, and Revelation 14:10-11, tormented forever and ever, are interpreted to mean ongoing conscious suffering without end. Influential theologians like Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, and Jonathan Edwards reinforce this view, portraying hell as retributive justice where the damned experience unending pain, both physical and spiritual, separated from God. Islam similarly teaches an eternal hell, Jahannam, for unbelievers and grave sinners. The Quran repeatedly describes hellfire, boiling water, and chains in vivid perpetual terms. For example, Surah 456, 78, 21, 30. While some Islamic scholars allow for the possibility that certain Muslims may eventually leave hell after purification, the punishment for polytheists and apostates is generally regarded as everlasting. Judaism has a less uniform doctrine of the afterlife, but traditional views in rabbinic literature, for example Gehenna, often limit punishment to 12 months for most souls, with only the most wicked facing longer or permanent destruction. Eternal torment is not a dominant theme. Eastern religions such as Hinduism and Buddhism feature cyclic rebirth and hell realms, naraka, but these are typically temporary states of suffering within samsara, not eternal damnation. Thus, the classic Abrahamic picture, especially Christian and Islamic, is one of infinite duration suffering for finite earthly sins. Annihilationism fundamentally reinterprets the same biblical text that traditionalists cite. Proponents argue that eternal punishment, Matthew 25:46, refers to punishment with eternal consequences, permanent death, rather than an eternal process of torment. Phrases like everlasting destruction, second death, and God's consuming fire are taken literally to mean total extinction. The undying worm and unquenchable fire of Mark 9 are seen as images of complete consumption, like a corpse devoured by maggots or a city burned to ashes, echoing Old Testament language about Sodom and Gomorrah in Jude 7. Annihilationists also emphasize that only God possesses immortality inherently, 1 Timothy 6:16, and eternal life is a conditional gift given to believers, John 3:16, Romans 6:23. The soul is not innately immortal. Death is therefore cessation of existence, not perpetual consciousness in agony. After resurrection and judgment, the wicked experience a degree of suffering commensurate with their sins, Luke 12:47-48, Revelation 20:12-13. But this is finite, culminating in annihilation. This view thus rejects the Platonic idea of an immortal soul that must exist forever somewhere, an idea that heavily influenced early Christian thought through Augustine, but is not explicitly biblical. Annihilationism offers a biblically grounded, philosophically coherent alternative to the traditional doctrine of eternal conscious torment. By interpreting the final fate of the wicked as destruction rather than endless suffering, it aligns punishment with justice, preserves God's goodness, and avoids the moral difficulties that have long plagued the majority view. While not the historic consensus, Annihilationism has gained thoughtful defenders in recent decades and provides a compelling answer to the question, why would a loving God sustain evil forever merely to punish it? Instead, evil is decisively ended. The redeemed inherit eternal life, and God is all in all.